Nobby Signal Station at the Port of Newcastle recorded wind gusts of more than 100 kilometres an hour from the north-northwest. Radar picked up dense storm clouds and showers. Small craft hurried to shore as the wind and choppy sea increased. And another timely reminder for boat owners this afternoon when a weather change moved in. Water police and harbour pilots from Newcastle were sent outside to tow in 2 boats which had broken down.
All of a sudden the wind come away something terrible and we had a flare sighted from a vessel about a mile off Stockton Beach. We got our crew back again, went straight out, and by the time we got out there that vessel had actually drifted 3.5 miles out to sea.
The rescue helicopter and a ship waiting to enter port stood by until help reached the craft.
A perfect example of today where the weather come away so fast and so bad. It blew 56 knots out there, and it come away so bad that people must be made aware of to have their vessels, and I mean have their engines checked over by somebody qualified and not just a backyard mechanic.
It's one of the meanest yacht races in the world. The BOC Challenge pits lone sailors against the toughest conditions Mother Nature can dish up. Today, 30-year-old Alan Neighbour was working hard for sponsorship to get his boat Newcastle Australia off the drawing board and into the water for next year's race. The entire campaign will cost around $500,000. It's taken years of preparation and will involve around 9 months of competition. Alan admits it will be tough, so why do it?
I'm going to have to find an answer because people keep asking me. I don't really know. It's just something that's in me. I've always wanted to do it. I love being at sea.
Last year, Alan sailed home from Canada with his wife. He's sailed since he was 8 years old. This latest challenge, also a mission for the underprivileged. Alan will donate his yacht, which after the race should be valued at around $250,000, to the Newcastle City Mission and Youth Service.
And we just felt if we can have an impact on the youth in the region, then I think a lot of people will benefit from that.
Last year, Hunter Electricity took on a $15 million contract to build a power line from Broken Hill to the Queensland border. However, the job stopped when General Manager Alan Dunlop billed the government for ongoing costs in design work. But the government balked at the payment, saying it had already paid its contractual commitments.
They only asked for $680,000. I'm not sure that amount can still be justified. That's not for me to respond at this stage.
Hunter Electricity is putting further claims to the government, making a total of more than $1 million, saying it cannot continue the work without payment. Energy Minister West has called in the accountants to see if the Patterson company can finish the job.
We've appointed Price Waterhouse to, in a cooperative manner with Hunter Electricity, to look at their business affairs and to advise as to whether there is a chance of survival.
100 jobs are on the line if the finances aren't sorted out. The government expects to make a decision within a week. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The royal portraits hold prominent positions in the Newcastle Council chambers, with the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh positioned on either side of the Lord Mayor's chair. The title of Lord Mayor, which was granted by a royal proclamation, will also have its fate decided. In Newcastle today, support for retention of the monarchy was strong.
I think it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, that's part of our heritage, isn't it, England? I'm all in favour of the monarchy.
All these soldiers died for that flag and the Queen and what she represents.
I think it's good. I don't think the Queen has much influence on the Newcastle as a city at the moment, so I don't think taking the picture down is really going to do much.
It's helping us advance and it's keeping us back in time if we kept it up there.
There's tradition there, I suppose, but I sort of believe in the Republic.
It doesn't bother me at all. I'm not one for the Queen, I'm not in for the royal family.
There's other sort of important issues, more important than the Republican debate, I think need to be looked at first.
Nah, I shouldn't do it. No way. It's part of Australia.
I suppose it'd be a bit of a disgrace, I suppose, to a degree.
If you were advising all the councillors on Newcastle Council, what would you say to them about the issue?
Leave it there at the moment.
Newcastle councillors will decide whether the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh will remain in residence when they meet in this chamber under the royal couple's watchful gaze on September 14. Gary Blair, NBN News.
It was a code red situation when brigades arrived. The front section of the building was well alight and it was possible people were inside. Robert Gent was passing the Hunter Street house when he saw the flames.
When I got here, there was an old man here with glasses. He was screaming out that his mother was inside. Both back doors were locked, but we just smashed our way through. And as we entered the house, we got as far as the flames, but unfortunately couldn't see anybody or anything.
Despite Robert's attempts and those of fire officers, they could not reach the elderly woman who was trapped in the front room. The elderly woman is believed to have been housebound and alone at the time the fire broke out. Her daughter and other relatives who live in the same street were comforted by neighbours. The family dog was also injured in the fire. When Robert and fire officers arrived, he was scratching on the door trying to get inside. Despite heavy smoke, the dog led rescuers to the room where the woman was lying.
When we entered, smashed our way through the first door, it was clawing at the screen door to get in. Very faithful things, animals.
An investigation is underway. At this stage, though, it appears the fire may have started when a heater in the front room fell over.
We have the Fire Brigade's Fire Investigation Squad coming to the scene, but it does appear it may have been an accidental cause.
The date is the 11th of August 1893 and Dungall councillors meeting for the first time. It was a unique celebration for 100 years of local government. Most of the councillors in period costume today, direct descendants of the original councillors. Elaine Bennett, the great-granddaughter of the first mayor, F.A. Hook.
They had a lot of hardships when they first settled and started their farms. They raised big families, got involved in civic affairs.
100 years ago, the Shire was hoping to raise £300 in rates. This year it's $3 million. And it seems topics have remained constant. The first meeting riddled with complaints about the roads. Some commented after the performance, things haven't changed much in a century of local government. Peter Ryan, NBN News. The once proud wool industry is on its knees with drought and record low prices. Yesterday, the Garno report was passed on to Primary Industries Minister Crean, the study advocating a new direction for wool. Lobby group, the New South Wales Farmers Association, has given it the thumbs up.
The best thing from our point of view is that the government has identified that it's going to specifically target ways to increase trade in wool via tackling things like trade barriers.
That also involves more promotion for the Aussie product and pushing for wool processing within the country. But perhaps the greatest thorn for the industry is the stockpile of 4 million bales of wool. The Garno report says 60,000 bales should be sold each month, whatever the price. But this means shrewd buyers could pick up the wool for a song.
Selling 60,000 bales a month is a pretty big ask, and it really does depend on a pickup in economic activity worldwide.
The Garno report hopes to wipe out the stockpile within 4 years. The Farmers Association, in its one criticism, says that could force overall wool prices down. And that's a bitter pill for producers who are already struggling to survive. Peter Ryan, NBN News. These budding chefs have spent the last 6 months trying out recipes and practicing their cooking skills for the annual competition. Working in the confines of Newcastle's natural gas showroom, each team of 4 is given $30 to prepare 2 courses for a family of 4. With the theme of this year's competition being Australian cuisine, one would expect the menu to include the good old steak and kidney pie and pavlova. Think again. Being judged on everything from produce to preparation and presentation, much thought has gone into their entries. Dishes such as stir-fry and herb bread are making appearances, the students saying this is a reflection of our multicultural society.
So there's a lot of young people around the region that are trying hard with fresh food, and that's terrific.
And if a tight budget, cramped kitchen space and limited resources are not tough enough conditions to work under, students have a 2-hour time limit to prepare, cook, serve and of course clean up. Winners of the regional heats will compete in a grand final cook-off in Sydney next month.
The Australian Volunteer Coast Guard on Port Stephens is well enough equipped for rescue, communications and emergency work, but the non-profit organisation is running short of volunteers. The base has been told that if it can't ensure a 24-hour listening watch and response capability, it will be downgraded.
It would mean that our station would be downgraded to a Category 2, which means that we would open and shut us anytime they like.
So that means that boat owners in that area couldn't rely on the station being there?
That's correct.
The base takes hundreds of calls for assistance and boating information each year and works in cooperation with the Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol, which runs its new base at Nelson Bay around the clock. The Coast Guard needs volunteers to save it from going under.
We like more of the boaties to become more interested, and they can come and help us by operating the radios for us during the week.
These young players represent the cream of both the state's public and Catholic high schools. Yesterday, the under-16s combined Catholic colleges team in the dark shirts won the first round game 2-1. Today, the combined high schools team was out to even the score at Newcastle's Hockey Centre. The challenge match was the first time team members had played together, travelling from as far north as Ballina and south to Nowra. It was a tough game, with both sides shooting some near misses at either end. With the score 0-0 at half-time, some sideline encouragement from coach Judy Lang saw the combined high school side shoot a field goal midway during second half and win the game. The overall challenge results a drawn series. On Sunday, both sides will take to the field again during the National Championships, where teams from across the country will travel to Newcastle for the big event.
As you enter the cathedral, there's a hint of spring, the sweet smell of thousands of flowers, freesias, roses, a wide variety from across the country. Volunteers worked until the early hours this morning, completing the display for this weekend's Floral Festival. Every part of the church has a different arrangement. The altar, a host of golden daffodils.
But I have to say, these wonderful arrangements beside me at the altar and above the altar are quite stunning, and I'm not quite sure whether anybody will see me at the altar on Sunday or not, but however.
Recognising Newcastle's importance as a port, this tribute to seafarers, a blanket of flowers depicting St Nicholas, the patron saint of sailors.
The money that we raise from the admission on 3 days is going towards the earthquake restoration fund of the.
The festival will be officially opened tonight. Jane Anderson, News. An energetic crowd took part in the charity fun run in the grounds of Newcastle University. Among the participants, 2-year-old Annika Gow and Dad Bruce. When Annika was just 6 months old, she was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, a form of cancer.
Oh, she's good. She's quite bright. We're still not at the end of the road yet. We're going back to Sydney soon for some further tests and maybe surgery.
This was the inaugural Terry Fox run in Newcastle. Terry was a young Canadian who had his leg amputated because of bone cancer. After 2 years of chemotherapy, he set out on a marathon to raise money for cancer research. He died before he completed the journey. However, like-minded people in 56 countries around the world have taken up the challenge. Money raised will be donated to the Cancer Council.
The money's going to all Cancer Council funded projects, which includes education of the community and the public, also research projects into causes and treatments.
Neck injuries are rapidly becoming the most common form of injury at our beaches. The Surf Association, in conjunction with the medical profession, have devised a straightforward plan for the treatment and stabilising of neck injuries. For the first time, lifesavers are being taught how to correctly apply spinal collars and neck braces. The idea is to standardise how patients are initially removed from the water and treated in the first few minutes. A mistake in the early stages of an injury could have crippling results. The association has also revised its resuscitation protocol.
They're not new methods. What we're doing more is shifting emphasis from certain points and placing high priorities on some points and low priorities on others to make a more effective, efficient resuscitation.
Each club will also be issued with an easy-to-follow chart on resuscitation. 35 examiners from the North Coast branch today sat in on the class and will begin individual club instruction from next week. Tomorrow, the instruction team moved to Ballina for another full day of lectures and prac demonstrations.
South Australia in the yellow and Queensland in the white tops provided the feature match of today's games, with the Queenslanders keen to show they're strong contenders to take the title. Queensland's Suzanne Faulkner wasted no time doing just that, chalking up goal number 1 in the game's first few minutes. The Sunshine State continued to penetrate South Australia's defence, the speed of Jodie Cullum, wearing number 10, proving a thorn in the opposition side. Queensland then turned on another goal through some controlled play, right-wing striker Erin Motes finishing off. Within minutes, South Australia replied, Lucy Huss making good use of a penalty corner. Not happy with leading 2-1, Queensland opened the floodgates in the second half to take the game 7-1. The goals weren't as plentiful in the clash between Victoria in the dark blue and the New South Wales development side in the light blue. The home state threatened on many occasions, but were unable to finish off in the goal circle. Victoria were more efficient, scoring early in the first half and coming close on other occasions. Final score, Victoria 1, New South Wales 0. In other games played today, Western Australia beat the ACT 6-0, while New South Wales had a 2-0 victory over the Northern Territory. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Police say the man aged in his early 20s was running away from the nearby Bellevue Hotel with stolen money when he ran into the path of a train just before 5 a.m. Witnesses saw the man attempting to cross the line between the platforms of the Wickham station and said he'd almost made it across when he was hit by an intercity commuter service heading into Newcastle. It's believed the man was killed instantly. An amount of money was found near the body. Police investigations led them to the Bellevue Hotel, where there'd been a brawl a short time earlier. It's thought that while bar staff were occupied with the disturbance, a man grabbed the cash tray from the till and made off toward the crossing. The dead man was known to police, who were attempting to contact his relatives.
It was a blow that any heavyweight boxer would be proud of. Greg Price went down for the count and stayed that way for a good 5 minutes. Last night, Brendan Dooley was feeling anything but proud when he faced the judiciary. Referee Paul Lovett, armed with video of the incident, had no doubt that the blow was intentional. Although Dooley did plead guilty, his legal representative, Gavin Hanrahan, said the punch was in retaliation to earlier attacks by West players. The judiciary said that had nothing to do with it, but considering his previously good record, ruled he cannot play again for 1993. The three panel members were less than impressed with the next player before them, South Centre Simon Cook. Cook was sent off for swearing and showing disrespect also to referee Lovett. Cook, who refused to appear last week, did plead guilty and was suspended for 4 games in 1994.
The shipment of hydrogen peroxide, a corrosive liquid, was to be just the first of many to be stored at the KBT Express Depot in Pendlebury Road, Cardiff. But as far as the manager of the yard knew, from reading the inventory, the load consisted of harmless swimming pool goods.
We were supposed to store some pallets here. We didn't know anything about dangerous goods or anything like that until it was unloaded from the trailer. And it wasn't until I got a whiff of the smell and the poor driver had burns on his hands that we realised that it was way out of our hands. We should phone the fire department.
The truck driver from Canberra was taken to the John Hunter Hospital to be treated for burns. His young daughter, who'd been in the truck's cab, luckily escaped harm. Firefighters evacuated the depot and cordoned off streets, while the hazardous materials team went to work stabilising about 30 containers of the chemical, some leaking.
It's an oxidising agent and can self-ignite if it contaminates any clothing or other materials.
The spill was neutralised with water, but firefighters weren't taking any chances. All those who came in contact with the chemical were decontaminated. A Queensland company responsible for the shipment seemed reluctant to take immediate action when informed of the spill.
No, it wasn't that big a deal, and the fire brigade and the EPA didn't need to know about it.
In a separate incident this morning, a firefighter was revived after collapsing unconscious at a grass fire at Warrabrook. 50-year-old Don Hurd from Waratah was treated for smoke inhalation and remains in the Mater Hospital.
It's what many teenagers dread, fitting in with the party crowd. These budding actors from Merewether High are among 600 performers from 18 Hunter schools, treading the floorboards during the two-day event.
Drama is really taking off in schools. It's now an elective subject at HSC level. 2-unit drama will be examined this year for the first time, and that has meant that the standards have just been getting higher and higher.
A sample of the talent can be seen tomorrow night at a special public performance at the Playhouse. With many students writing and directing the plays, a range of issues are being tackled, giving the young performers the opportunity to develop more than just a plot.
Kids are starting to identify that the skills that they gain in drama are important for their whole lives. They gain so much confidence and self-esteem and really gain an image of themselves that they take through their whole lives.
It was clear skies over Newcastle today and a clean bill of health for the city from one of the country's environmental watchdogs, the Keep Australia Beautiful group. Newcastle Council was presented an Environment Award for a special program to check pollution levels across the region. Each year, the council makes running checks on about 600 local industries, making sure they're doing the right thing by the environment. According to council workers, the few that are breaking the rules are changing their ways.
So far, we found in 99% of those cases they have taken the opportunity to do the right thing and change their work practices.
Each quarter, Keep Australia Beautiful makes an award to a council within the state. It's Newcastle's second award in 12 months, leading the Keep Australia Beautiful spokesman Terry Wilson to label the city as a leader on environmental issues. Not bad for an area famous for its industrial base. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Justice Newman had deferred sentencing Jennifer Woolsey until today to consider his options. The 36-year-old had pleaded guilty to the manslaughter of her husband John at their Rutherford home in July last year. Public Defender Sean Flood submitted the woman shouldn't be given a jail term. This morning in Newcastle Supreme Court, Jennifer Woolsey was placed on a 4-year good behaviour bond. Jennifer Woolsey sat in the dock with her head bowed and shaking nervously as Justice Newman took half an hour to hand down his verdict on sentence. His Honour accepting the woman hadn't intended to kill her husband or cause grievous bodily harm. Justice Newman finding battered woman syndrome and Mrs Woolsey's 2 intellectually disabled children mitigating circumstances in the case. As John Woolsey's mother and sister left the court, they expressed their disbelief.
The lies she's told about my son is disgusting. I hope her tongue falls off.
On 3 occasions my brother left his wife and went back to live with my mother and my sister. And on the 3 occasions she phoned him and pleaded with him to come back. And he went back. And often I've been in Jenny's presence with Mum and she would put her arm on Mum's shoulder and she'd say, Mum, John's the only thing that ever kept me sane. Nothing like that was ever said in this court.
Jennifer Woolsey hopes her case will encourage other women to speak out on domestic violence. Port of Newcastle will benefit from the proposed upgrade through increased shipping activity. While the campaign gathers momentum, Newcastle's waterfront is already preparing for a resurgence with improvements dockside. The container trade that will handle goods from the west is also gearing up. Chamber President Colin Chapman says a $50,000 grant will help the Chamber of Commerce produce hard facts to support the upgrade.
We've produced a report supporting it, but the problem has been finding hard evidence where you have statistical data supporting your argument. This grant will allow us to, or that committee, to appoint a research assistant who can give them the hard data.
The Dubbo-Newcastle link uses existing roads through the Hunter Valley, and there's already strong support for the project. A consultant's report released earlier this year sees cost benefits of $126 million over 20 years, with $95 million going to trading industries.
They're calling it LEAF, that is low emission exhaust fuel. It's a special blend with diesel that could change the transport industry as we know it.
This is the most important development the oil industry has made in the last 25 years.
Fuchs Australia has been working in its Wickham laboratory for 4 years on the fuel. The idea came originally with a call from the mining industry over problems with machinery exhaust emissions underground. The gases can be dangerous in confined spaces, and so Fuchs produced a fuel which cuts emissions by more than 90%.
We are looking at putting purer materials into the fuel tank and eliminating the emissions of all the nasties that come out in the exhaust gases.
Some Hunter mines are already using the fuel, and Fuchs has a world patent pending. The company says this is just the beginning. The next step is to get public transport using the environment-friendly LEAF, and then a move on privately owned cars. The fuel will work on conventional diesel engines.
The bounds are beyond possibility.
Can you put a dollar value on this?
Billions, Peter, billions, but more so as an export commodity for Australia.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
It's the first time the pair have seen each other in the flesh, and after seeing a video of Kostya's fighting style, Livingston Bramble was very quiet.
I'm scared.
Kostya's trainer John Lewis believes Bramble is publicly underrating himself. However, his wealth of experience will give the Russian his first good workout.
I just hope that he's as good as what I think he is, because then I'll see that the performance of Kostya will be greatly multiplied by what he's shown us in the past.
Within seconds of the press conference finishing, Bramble was out of his seat and on his way back to the hotel. Kostya, meanwhile, showed his new boxing trick to improve eye-to-hand contact. He's become so proficient, he's now trying it with his eyes closed. But there's no doubt he will have both eyes open when he steps into the ring on Monday night.